All right, so we'll give everybody a chance to come in here to our talk about 12 steps with Gary Kimball. We're gonna
Welcome to Recovery Live.
There you go. We're gonna wait a little bit to make sure more people get in here. This is comprehensive wellness centers. You know, family and alumni as well has been invited, and you know we're a treatment center here in Atlanta, Florida. We offer dual diagnosis. We're PHP, IOP, OP services, and we have Gary is our recovery education director, and he helps us with, you know, AA, going through the steps. So you just walked into the video here. So anyway, how do you see how many people are on here? Can you see, or it doesn't show? Watching now. There's Paul and Bella, but it doesn't show you a total.
Correct.
Hey guys, you're the first ones in here. So we'll wait a little bit. It does show up in the upper left-hand corner.
Great.
So we'll wait a little bit. You see up here it says 2?
Yes.
Okay, so it is a little weird with the delay.
Okay.
But we will start talking once we get a few more people in here. And like I said, we're here with Gary Kimball from Comprehensive Wellness Centers. I'm the CEO of Comprehensive Wellness Centers, and we're going to be trying to do this every week. We're going to try to come up with different topics. Depending on the feedback, we're going to come up with different topics, specifically mostly around, you know, 12-step work and things like that, and how it relates to recovery.
And we'll have rock star guests
right
from the recovery universe and treatment universe.
Exactly. Let's see how
Talking about really the most important thing that could be talked about on any social media or television or radio today, the solution to the global pandemic of addiction, which has become the largest killer of human beings.
Hey, Ashley. So one of our, I see Ashley in here. I see Paul and Bella, Mandy. Thank you guys for joining.
Wonderful.
Mandy is our case management director here at Comprehensive Wellness Center. She helps everybody from helping them with resumes to working on their court appearances, helping them get food cards, food stamps if they need it, food cards. So we're lucky to have her here. All right, so we could start probably. I mean, we have a few people in here. It's a good start for our first time. So again, this is Gary Kimball. I want to introduce him. He's our Director of Education, Recovery Education here at Comprehensive Wellness Centers. And he's going to talk a little bit about the 12-step program we have here. At Comprehensive Wellness Centers, we're really big into people working a program, whether it be AA, NA, Smart Recovery, church, whatever helps people, you know, with their recovery and staying in recovery. So, Gary, tell us a little bit about yourself.
First of all, thank you for letting me play in your sandbox, Jason. This is an incredible, auspicious opportunity to be of maximum service to our patients who are coming to us sick and suffering and in desperate need of help. And we know the solution to the problem. We know how to give them that help. And first of all, I would like to say my name is Gary Kay, and I am a grateful, recovered alcoholic and drug addict. And I went to all kinds of therapy. I've been to 47 detoxes. I did treatment, I can't even remember how many times, in and out of the treatment centers. Thanks to the work that I did in Smart Recovery, Rational Recovery, and then the miracle of 12-step recovery, it has not been necessary for me to take a drink or a drug since August the 25th, 1996. I just celebrated in August 21 years.
21 years.
And
it can be done.
Absolutely. The program really does work. I tried everything. I'm free from, in case you're wondering, free from alcohol, poppers, pot, opium, morphine, hash, ketamine, whippets, LSD.
Kratom.
No, I never did kratom. That didn't exist back in my day. Percocet, Percodan, Vicodin, Restoril, crack cocaine, crystal methamphetamine, IV heroin, Quaaludes, the whole 9 yards. I was a total garbage head, and my life was destroyed. And
What age did you start?
I was 12 years old.
12 years old. And how were you introduced to it?
My father and mother didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't cuss. They were totally sober. There was no alcohol in our family's life. My grandfather was a minister. They were all teetotalers. I'm adopted. And I found out recently that my adopted parents both died from alcoholism. Both sets of grandparents, for my birth family rather, my bad. My birth parents both died from alcoholism. Grandparents on both sides, maternal and paternal, all died from alcoholism. And I have 6 siblings who I have not yet met, who I just found out about in December. All drug addicts and alcoholics. So I was born with this disease.
You have a lot, I just want to say something. You have a lot of fans. I want to welcome some people here. So you have Michelle saying hello.
Hi,
Thank
Michelle.
you, Gary. Lisa, she's so excited. Cynthia, there is a solution. How do I scroll this thing?
Yes, there
2
is.
fingers on the trackpad.
And congratulations on your year, Cynthia.
No, on the mouse trackpad.
Oh, no, it's not working. Oh, there we go. All right, we also have Renee here. Cam's here.
Hey,
Gary
Cam.
K. So we got a bunch of people coming in. It's great
Wonderful.
to see you all. So again, we're here with Gary K. He's our Director of Recovery Education, and he's telling us a little bit about himself, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about the 12 steps we do here at Comprehensive Wellness Center.
I had my first drink when I was 12 years old. My father helped provide my adoptive father did service work for the Football Hall of Fame in Ohio and helped line up the convertible automobiles for the yearly Football Hall of Fame parade. And one year, as a gift, the Board of Trustees gave to him a porcelain whiskey decanter, commemorative decanter in the shape of the actual building of the Football Hall of Fame. If you've ever seen it, the roof is a big football. That's the cork in the bottle, and in that bottle was 80-year-old Jim Beam whiskey. And he had to put it in a shadow box, and this was a prized possession, and warned me to never touch that. They felt alcohol was very bad. No one in our family drank. He didn't care about the alcohol inside the bottle. He loved the bottle because he loved football, and it was a gift from the Football Hall of Fame Board of Trustees. And from the time I was 9 years old, when that bottle showed up, every chance I got, I would go into that room and pick the bottle up and shake it and listen to that liquor. And I knew in the deepest part of my soul, I was going to have a relationship with what was on the inside of that bottle. And one weekend, when I was 12 years old, I'd had a growth spurt. And my voice changed, and I got taller, and they left for the weekend, and I said, I'm going to stay home alone. And they decided to leave me home alone. And my father said to me, if you touch that bottle, there's going to be hell to pay. The minute, I promise, oh, absolutely, I swear I won't touch it. The minute the car disappeared down the road, I ran into the room, grabbed the bottle, went into the kitchen, filled up a tea kettle with water, got a head of steam going, and I very carefully removed the seal from the bottle. And I drank for the first time. It was like there was a wall between me and every human being, and that wall instantly went away. And I felt like I was a superhuman, and I drank that bottle. I drank all of that whiskey over the course of that weekend. I went and beat up a kid who used to pick on me. I felt like I was a superhero. And then when I was done with it, I filled the bottle up with water and put the cork in, glued the seal back on, put it back in its place of honor in my parents' home, and where it remained until my father was dying. And I went home to help my mother pack some of his things, and I saw that bottle, and I shook it, and there was still water in it. And that had been, I was 12, and this was just maybe 5-6 years ago. And 40 years had gone by, and that water was still in the bottle. And I went to my father's hospital bed, and I said, Dad, there's something I need to tell you. I need to make an amends to you. And he rolled his eyes and went, oh, he like groaned. And I told him I said, it's about that whiskey bottle. And he said, I know, it's full of water. I said, what? And he said, you put the seal on upside down.
That's funny.
And the purpose of telling this is step 9, since we're talking about the steps, that step is for our comfort. It's not a punishment. Making amends is not a punishment.
So, I could have done that same thing. I'm not an addict. I'm not in recovery. And I think a lot of us have that story where we stole liquor out of our parents' cabinet. Now, what makes an addict maybe differently or their brain different
Wow.
that makes me able to have that drink and not really fall in love like you did.
Yeah.
And
you said it was love.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you telling the story even before, and I'm like, I could have it, and I just had fun, and I never thought about that again, or just once in a while with some friends. So what is it that you know about?
That's a great question. I am born as an alcoholic and a drug addict. I am absolutely clear that I am born with a brain disorder, a brain disease. It is not a moral failing. This is a disease. Even though in my active disease, I acted out in ways that were absolutely abnormal, egregious, and horrific, and caused great pain for everyone in my life and myself. For centuries, people thought that the behavior caused the alcoholism. It's the other way around. The brain disorder causes that bad behavior. I have a defect in my brain. First of all, my brain doesn't produce enough dopamine, epinephrine, and serotonin, which are neurotransmitting chemicals that are essential for having a sense of well-being and to be able to be present. And in a part of the brain, and this is a very simplistic explanation to this question, this is like so rudimentary, so just know that. There's a lot more, it's more complex than what I'm about to share, but this is a very, surface explanation. There's an area of the brain deep in the midbrain called the amygdala, and it's in the amygdala. The amygdala's purpose is to keep you alive for the next 30 seconds. It compels you to breathe, first of all, to drink water, to eat, to procreate, and to sleep and protect yourself. When I first drank that whiskey, that Jim Beam whiskey in that Hall of Fame commemorative bottle, something was triggered in my brain where my brain instantly rewired itself. There was a sudden abnormal flood of dopamine into my addict brain. And my amygdala read that dopamine rush and said, wow, this is more important than breathing, than eating, than sleeping, than procreating, than protecting myself. Alcohol now equals life itself.
So how do you feel about people that say it's not a disease? You don't agree?
I say they are misinformed.
Okay.
I say they are uneducated. This is 2017. It is unequivocal. There is no debate on this subject. I suggest that they read about it. Read about the brain disorder. We know exactly what's going on in the brain today. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Guys, whoever's in here now, please like and share so we can get this message out there. Please like and share our Facebook. Like and share this video so we can get more people to come and learn about this. I want to say hi to my son Colton. He's watching.
Colton.
He said, hi, Dad, I love you. Michael Magby, good to see you here. So tell us a little bit about, at CWC, what your role is and kind of how you take the clients here through the steps that want to participate.
Absolutely. I want to go back to the amygdala thing just briefly to kind of wrap that up. So I have a defect in my brain as an addict alcoholic. You don't have any choice over breathing, right? You can't stop yourself from breathing.
Right.
You have no choice in the matter. Well, I have no choice in the matter of drinking alcohol or not because my brain thinks that alcohol is more important than breath. It thinks it's helping me.
Right. It's
compelling me. That primitive part of the brain, the amygdala doesn't think. It has no language, no logic, no reason, no sense of morality or consequence. That all happens in another part of the brain, in the prefrontal cortex. In the prefrontal cortex, the human being experience where a mother loves her child. It's where the child loves the mother back. It's where we have a friendship, where we experience friendship and collegiality. It's where we experience God, spirituality. Every human being is hardwired for that. That's where we have our sense of morality and consequence. That happens in the prefrontal cortex. Normally, the prefrontal cortex is driving the buggy and controlling the amygdala. In the addict, the amygdala has run amok. And it's not communicating properly with the prefrontal cortex. And here's where the steps come in. All the way back in 160 AD, Marcus Aurelius discovered a formula, spiritus contra spiritum. Higher spirit conquers lower spirit. They observed that when drunken soldiers of Marcus Aurelius, he was a Roman emperor and a general and a soldier, the Roman Empire was falling because all the soldiers were drunk. And he discovered that the ones who participated in certain spiritual experiences, and Roman religious rituals, a small percentage of them stopped drinking. They didn't know why, but they observed that this was a fact. Much later, Carl Jung, the great psychiatrist, discovered this formula of Marcus Aurelius and began to study chronic inebriants. That's what they used to call alcoholics. And discovered that 1% of all chronic inebriants, alcoholics, for some unexplainable random reason, they would have an intense spiritual experience and it would cause them to stop drinking. They didn't know why, but they observed that that was true.
Right.
So, as history progressed, a man named Frank Buckman discovered a process. He was the founder of what's called the Oxford Group, and he formulated what they called the 6 procedures. And these 6 procedures were spiritual actions that you could take to overcome any human emotional, psychological, spiritual dis-ease or malady. And it wasn't designed for alcoholism, but one of Carl Jung's patients, a man named Roland Hazard, applied the 6 procedures to himself as an alcoholic, and he stopped drinking. He took these spiritual actions, and it stopped him from drinking. And he passed this message along to a man named Evie Thatcher, who passed this message along to a man named Bill Wilson, the famed Bill W., co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, who passed it on to Dr. Bob Smith, the other co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. And eventually, millions of people recovered because of the discovery of this spiritual solution. Today, through brain imaging technology, we can photograph the brain and see exactly how the step work affects the brain. In fact, there's a study that just came out several weeks ago from Harvard that reaffirms this, that the neurology of the brain actually changes as people work through the steps. And the reason is the steps help us access this damaged part of our prefrontal cortex and strengthens it and gets us out of our amygdala. And one of the things it does, why it keeps me clean and sober, as I drank and used drugs, I caused all kinds of mayhem and harm to a lot of people. And I am not a sociopath. I have a conscience, and that makes me feel horrible. And then I suffer from guilt, shame, and remorse, and fear, which turns into resentment. And when the human brain is in a state of resentment, unresolved resentment, anger, fear, guilt, shame, or remorse, other chemicals are released into the brain, irritate the amygdala. The amygdala demands relief the same way it demands that we breathe. And its only way of getting relief is going to the booze. That's all it knows. Until we teach our brains to use these spiritual tools.
Which really makes it hard on family and alumni, family and friends, because we don't understand that. It's hard for us to understand that it's like breathing. Like,
yes.
And it's very hard, and it's also, it's hard on the family members to understand that and be compassionate and empathetic.
Yes, it is.
And
even we do horrific things.
Right. And it's so how do you, people that come to our program here, or in general when you meet people and work them through the steps, how do you do that here? Maybe differently than people have seen before, or explain why you do it the way you do it.
First of all, I want to say thank you for being brave and compassionate
thanks.
To allow this program to happen at CWC, because all treatment centers talk about the steps. All insurance companies say it's due diligence. When they get out of treatment, they got to get a sponsor, they got to go to meetings. But mostly in treatment centers, all they do is talk about the steps, and the patients never get to actually experience the healing benefit of the steps. And very few places do that. And here at CWC, thanks to you, you're allowing me to actually work with the clients and take them through the step process in PHP as soon as they come out of detox, which is how the steps were designed to be done. I had gone, as I said, to 47 detoxes. I can't even remember how many treatment centers I went to. And I tried every pathway there was known to man. And when I finally surrendered to 12-step recovery, everything changed. And I met 2 men in a treatment center, 2 elderly men. One of them just passed away last Friday, and the other one passed away about 15 weeks ago. They were both in their 90s, and both of them had been sponsored in the 12-step process by Bill W. himself. And that's how they were taught the steps. And the steps were designed to be done quickly and to be done often. And the procedure that was used by Dr. Bob is perfect for treatment, because it is to be accomplished in less than 30 days. Often it can be done in 1 day. I know this sounds radical today, but that's how the founders designed the steps to be done. Dr. Bob always said that the 12 steps are not spiritual philosophies to be understood first and then taken. They are survival actions to be carried out immediately to provide us with instant hope and relief and save our lives. He considered them to be a tourniquet. He called it battlefield triage, stop the bleeding. We must assume that you are going to relapse tomorrow and die, so we need to take you through the steps today. We don't have months to wait. We have a very small window of opportunity to work with an addict who's
Right, because
sick and suffering.
when I got into this industry, you hear how it could take months or a year to go through the steps, and the people I'm seeing or the clients we're seeing don't seem to have months to a year. I mean, things have changed a lot too.
Yes.
I mean, the drugs that are out there, like the fentanyl and stuff, I mean, one more time, it could be their last time.
That's right. There's no wiggle room. We don't have months to wait.
Right.
Because chances are they will relapse because they get no relief and they're still suffering.
And I was seeing a lot of clients or people coming to me saying I couldn't get past step 2 or step 3.
Exactly.
And they would give up because it was too hard or it took too long or they had trouble getting in with their sponsor. So what I liked, what you brought to the table was immediate relief. Instant relief. And I saw it very quickly in people that were here saying, wow, it was like a lifetime of resentments and things taken off them. And it at least gives them some hope and some light, along with working and going to meetings and going and doing treatment and following the principles and the steps themselves, not just stopping after they learn them.
Absolutely.
I saw a tremendous maturity happen in these.
It does, doesn't
people.
it? Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
And they still have work to do after that.
Absolutely.
But tell us more about in our program, they actually get to work the steps, and some of them are completing 8 steps in treatment before they even get out of.
Absolutely. Most of our clients, they become so engaged in this. First of all, I teach the history. Once they understand the history of where this thing came from and how it works, they understand why it works. They understand. We teach them the science behind the spirituality. Because you hear spirituality, you go, "Ooh, what is that?" You know. And you look at the steps and you see God, 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 and that scares the hell out of most drunks and addicts. They're either they don't believe it, or they think they are God, or they think it's hogwash, or they're scared to death of God. They're afraid God's mad at them for all the crap that they did while they were out there, you know.
Right.
And they find out what that really is all about, and understand what spirituality is, and they become engaged. And so right away, we take them through the steps. We start out, we actually go through 1, 2, 3. Most of the clients, I've taken a lot of our clients through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a weekend. They start to make amends, they get instant relief. Then we teach them how to do 10 and 11, and we hand them off to a sponsor who works the steps in this same manner. When 12-step recovery was worked in this manner, we had a success rate that we could quantify between 50 and 75% nationally, up to 90% in Northeast Ohio and Brooklyn, New York, where Bill and Bob were residing, when they were worked quickly and often in this manner. Dr. Bob himself, if you read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, in the introduction to Dr. Bob's story, it's called Dr. Bob's Nightmare, you will read that Dr. Bob took 5,000 men and women through the steps from June 1935 until November 1950 when he died. If you get out a calculator, that's 1 person per day.
Wow.
And that's how he did it. It was the same method that I'm using with our clients. It was created by Dr. Bob and a man named Clarence Snyder in Cleveland, Ohio. When the big book first came out, there were 87 members, 87 men who had gone through this procedure. They were the first people in history to do this process and achieve sobriety and overcome alcoholism. Before that, there was no hope for people like us. We were basically Baker acted for the rest of our lives, or we died, or went mad, in an asylum. And so there were 87 men that knew how to do this, and the big book came out. And there was no Alcoholics Anonymous. There was no organization called AA. It was just a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the co-founders of AA, Bill Wilson, convinced the Cleveland Plain Dealer to publish an article about the big book. And when the article came out, 800 phone calls came into that office at the Plain Dealer the day the article came out. People begging for help, and hundreds of calls every day after that. Now you have a dilemma. You have 87 men that know how to do this. 40, maybe 5 of them lived in Northeast Ohio, in Akron, Canton, Toledo, and Cleveland. The rest of them lived in Brooklyn, New York, and New Jersey, and Manhattan. So you got 40-some people, and you have now, within a couple of weeks, about 10,000 people gathering in Northeast Ohio begging for help. How are these 40 guys going to sponsor 10,000 people? Dr. Bob, co-founder of AA, sat down with Clarence Snyder, and they created a meeting format for the original beginners meetings, where you would go to the meeting with your sponsor, and everybody had 2 sponsors, by the way, back in the day, which seems like a heresy today, but that's how it was done. I've had 3 sponsors for 20 years until, for this alcoholic and addict, it takes a village. Some are sicker than others. Some of us are sicker than others. Anyway, they came up with a meeting format where large groups of beginners with their sponsors would gather. You'd hear a speaker for 10 minutes. That's all the longer a speaker meeting was. Dr. Bob always said, if you talk more than 10 minutes, you're either repeating yourself or making it up. And then they would go into a back room and actually work the steps. And it was designed to be done in 4 2-hour sessions. And sometimes they did them in successive nights. Sometimes they did it like on each Saturday for a month. So within 30 days or less, you had completed your steps. That's how they were designed to be done. And to do this, they highlighted 50 key paragraphs in the big book. And they took people through the steps using those 50 key paragraphs. They did that first, gave them relief, got them on safe ground, helped them release their guilt and their shame and their remorse. And at that point, that's when the cravings go away. That's when the obsession, the mental obsession to continue using stops. Because you no longer have a need. Because you don't hate yourself. Then you maintain it by doing step 10 and 11 on a daily basis, and you help other people. And that's the antidote to our selfishness. So we get our clients ready to do that. We introduce them to 12-step communities. Just tonight, we're having a sponsor night. We've got about 30 people from the community coming into our treatment center, coming to comprehensive.
Be here, and we're going to have 30 people
Yeah.
that are willing to be sponsors.
That's right.
Come to our facility.
Handpicked, vetted. We know they're solid. We know them. We know they work the steps in the same
And if
method.
anything, they're meeting sober support, right?
Right, absolutely.
And so
we hold them we take them by the hand, and we teach them about the community, about all the supports that they need, and we help them build that and put it in place while we're actually taking them through the steps. And while it sounds radical to many people, many of our clients are ready to sponsor other people by the time they go into IOP. And sponsoring others, that's step 12. That is the ultimate antidote to what we suffer from, which is extreme selfishness. It's one of the symptoms of our disease. It's a symptom of the disease. So it's essential. Our big book tells us that it's essential to, if we fail to perfect and enlarge our spiritual life and growth through intensive work with others who are suffering, we will not be able to survive the certain trials and low spots that lie ahead, and we will drink again and use again, and we will die.
I want to say hi to a couple. Janet, I'm glad to see you here. Thank you. Again, welcome to all our family, friends. I'd like to open up to some questions. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Gary's an expert at this level and a historian. If you have any questions, Peg, I'd like to say hi. Larissa, hi. We're definitely going to keep this up every week. I see Nick finally.
Quite a few people on there.
Yeah, Nick finally joined us. I mean, he has a much bigger following than us, but he's graced us with his presence. Thank you, Nick. This is great. We have a great crowd here tonight. We love to see family, friends. Please invite any of other families or friends that may be looking for help or looking for advice. We're going to try to do this every Thursday at 5 p.m. We're comprehensive wellness centers. We're here in Lantana, Florida. I know someone had asked that earlier. We're a dual diagnosis facility, PHP, IOP, OP. We have a great staff here. We have, full services. We offer 12 steps. We offer different programs, Smart Recovery, AA, NA. But tonight we have Gary, and he focuses mostly on AA, or exclusively
on 12-step recovery.
12-step
and that could be
recovery.
NA, it could be any of the fellowships, 12-step recovery. I've also done Smart Recovery and Rational Recovery, and they were very helpful.
And Tracy says she likes the idea of doing the steps in 30 days. When I came here, I never even knew you could do it. And Gary, this weekend, some people would agree, but he's working someone through the steps in a 15-hour day.
Yeah, I do it the way Dr. Bob did it and Bill W. did it. That's how it was taught to me by my sponsors who were sponsored by Bill W.
And I can
And
tell
I'm
you,
just passing that method along to
I
them.
can tell you, I'm seeing tremendous differences in people, and people that were always clients that were always not willing to take the time are taking the time, and they're really feeling a difference after that.
No doubt about
after
it.
working the steps, and it's
Right.
a great thing to see. Anybody have any questions for us? Nick, you have any questions? Anyway, so the point being is that ultimately, I think the thing that's most amazing is the statistics you talk about back in the day when they were working somebody through a program were much higher than they are currently.
Significantly. Today, the estimated success rate is about 5%. That means we're losing 95%. I'm not talking about here at CWC. I'm talking about in 12-step recovery
Correct.
in general. There are a lot of reasons for that. It is estimated that approximately 80% of the people in the rooms of recovery, of 12-step recovery, in large urban areas are not there because they want to be. They're there because of legal issues, and treatment centers have dropped them off there. You have to want recovery for it to work. The pain of recovering must become less than the pain of using. You know what I
Right.
mean? Where you actually want this.
I mean, I see relief. It's amazing.
does.
They're getting a natural high that
Yes.
they've never had before.
Yes. What the steps do, 4 through 9, remove from us the things in ourselves which are blocking us from loving ourselves and loving other people, from being able to give and receive love.
And I keep saying I want to work the steps for the same reason. I'm just scared to divulge all my personal information. with
I would,
Gary.
so you drop a hat and I'm there. I'm going to take
I
you through
really
the
want to
steps,
work
buddy.
through them, but I mean, I
Oh
just
my
don't
God,
know
would I
about
love that.
divulging all my personal stuff.
Oh,
But Mandy says, Gary, how important is it to apply the principles behind the steps in everyday life?
it's essential. It's absolutely essential. You cannot live dirty and stay clean.
And that means lying, cheating, and
Yes.
just not alcohol.
No.
Right.
Yeah, we cease fighting anyone and everything for by having worked the steps. Sanity has returned. We have to live in integrity, be our authentic selves. You make your bed, you clean your, you got to do the next right thing.
Right.
Which isn't, we're not saints. That isn't easy to do. That's why we also need a community. Why there's in 12-step, one of the most valuable parts of it is our fellowship in the community.
Bella asks, Gary, can you please share with us how important it is to keep doing the work after we have reached our 12th step?
Oh, it's absolutely essential. Here's the thing. The first 3 steps are intellectual exercises. Dr. Bob always said step 1, 2, and 3. First of all, if you don't know you're an alcoholic, why are you wasting our time? We're assuming that you want to get well. That's why you've come for help. And you know that you're an alcoholic or a drug addict. So step 1, 2, and 3 could be done in an hour. It's a simple discussion. You make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of something greater than you. Then steps 4 through 9 actually remove what is blocking us from giving and receiving love. The best way I can explain that, it's, okay, here's me, and here's everybody in my life, and here's God up here. And as I'm using drugs and smoking crack and shooting up heroin, my brain believes I have to have the drug. I cannot live without it. I need it to sustain life. It's more important than breathing. Now, I no longer, because I'm hammered all the time, I can't go to work. I've lost my job. I have no money, so I have to steal from my dear old grandmother, who I dearly love, but she's got money and I got to have crack. So, sorry, Granny. Sorry for your bad luck, but I am going to rob you. I still love you. Now, I've robbed my grandmother. I feel terrible. Now, that makes, I'm being dishonest, and this starts to build a wall of selfish, I can't even say the word I want to use to describe it, but it creates a wall. I become dishonest. I become selfish. I become greedy. I become intolerant. I become angry, fearful, resentful. I become sarcastic, combative, careless, self-seeking. All of these, as I behave in that way, it creates a wall of blockage between me and everybody else in my life. And to the degree that I'm blocked from others, I'm blocked from the source of my good, whatever you want to call that. God, good orderly direction. If you don't like the word God, you can put an extra O in there and call it good. It blocks me from my good, from the source of my good. And 4 through 9 takes that wall down. In step 4, I take a fearless moral inventory of the behavior that I've done. And the way Dr. Bob did it, it's a simple checklist. It's a grid. In fact, in the archives, I worked in the archives, studied in the archives in New York for about a decade, and in Akron, Ohio for many years, and have done extensive research at Wolf Street and Stepping Stones, and have become a 12-step historian. In those archives, there are a collection of scraps of paper, envelopes, file folders where Dr. Bob scribbled a grid. It's a simple line grid like this. And you write people's names across the top. Who have you harmed and who are you resentful against? And you just put their names. And then down one column, they write all the words that describe extreme self-centeredness, which are the symptoms of our disease. Resentment, fear, intolerance, dishonesty, selfishness, carelessness, and so forth. And you take an inventory simply by making check marks. You go to the first name on your list, my sister. Do you have resentment? I do. Check mark. Did you do anything to cause fear to your sister? Yes, check mark. And you just make all these check marks. This is your moral inventory. It takes an hour. Now you're prepared for a very long talk. You're going to sit back with your sponsee. I'm going to do this weekend with 2 of our patients. I do it every weekend with 2 men. One on Saturday, one on Sunday, and we start around 7 o'clock in the morning, we finish around midnight. And that guy walks out of there changed. He's a changed human being. A phenomenal event occurs. It's like a series of spiritual gunpowder blasts that go off, and he is relieved of his shame, which is phenomenal, you know. It's like in the story of Androcles and the lion's got the thorn in the paw, and he pulls it out, and the lion's his best friend forever. He doesn't eat Androcles because he got relief, and that's what we do for our patients. We give them relief, instant relief.
Guess who joined us? Dalton's here.
Dalton.
He goes, what's the importance to doing service work once completing the 12 steps?
It's essential. First of all, nothing makes the human heart sing a sweeter song than being of service to other people who are suffering. Once you've done the first 9 steps, your vessel becomes clean and clear, and you're not walking around jammed up with guilt, shame, and remorse, and the shitty committee in your head quiets down, the voice that tells you you're no good, and now you become an open vessel, able to give and receive love. And as you do service for other people who suffer, or service in the community, particularly with alcoholics and addicts, it's like you're given more love to give away to them, and as that love passes through you, you receive a healing. It's the essential antidote to our selfishness. And our 12-step literature tells us that selfishness, self-centeredness, is the root of our problems. We suffer from 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-pity, and self-seeking. And we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. We must get rid of this selfishness or it kills us. And the steps give us relief from that guilt, shame, and remorse. Step 10, we do a nightly inventory. I use, all my sponsees, we use an app that's available. It's called My Spiritual Toolkit. And a couple of people that have joined us are now using that app.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Yeah, so there's many people here.
Yeah, and they're using this app, and it's for the 10th step. And at night, it asks you questions on your phone. Was I resentful today? Did I harm someone? Do I need to talk about something? Do I need to share something with somebody regarding somebody that I've harmed? Do I have an amends that I need to make quickly? Was I selfish? Was I intolerant? Was I sarcastic to anybody? Did I harm anyone? Was I, and you take your moral inventory so that the wall doesn't go back up, that we've torn down in steps 4 through 9. We've torn this wall down, and we don't want the wall blockage to go back up, so you've got to stop being dishonest, intolerant, careless, selfish, greedy, lustful, prideful, fearful, resentful. That has to go away. And the 10th step, we become very self-aware of our behavior. All of this process actually changes the neurology of the brain. It changes the shape of the brain. There are incredible studies available to us today using brain imaging technology, photographing the brain's neuroplasticity. And it actually changes shape.
Well, I just can't
work in the steps.
How can it not change, or at least how can it not change when you're waking up in the morning and saying what you're grateful for.
Absolutely.
And at night, you're going over what you could have, who you may have.
What could I have done
what
better?
What could you have done better?
Yeah.
Like who? Everybody in the world should be required to do that.
Absolutely. And then you start to grow. You grow as a human being. Then step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. Good orderly direction, however you conceive of that. God as you understand it. And what conscious contact means is we are practicing having a conversation with God. A lot of people go, what? Well, until you've practiced it and you actually discover the benefits of this, then once you do, you say, oh my gosh, this is real. It's really real. Someone once asked Dr. Bob, are you really in step 11? Are you really talking to God? And he said, at the end of the day, I don't know, but if it's me, it's the best part of me, and I'm going to keep doing it. We access some higher functioning part of our brain. In step 11, we seek guidance in our life. We sit, we meditate, we pray. And you actually ask God a question, say, what do I do today? Tell me what to do today. How do I overcome this? I've got 3 job offers. I don't know which one to take. And you meditate, and you'll get guidance. Once you've torn this wall down and the shitty committee goes away, the noise in your head that's telling you you're no good, that all calms down after you do 1 through 9.
Well, I want to thank you because
we
actually went over.
Did we?
But I love this. I love this, and I'm excited.
Thank you.
I'm excited
Me
to make.
too.
I won't
Thank
be
you.
here as much. You will be here every week or
I love
many
it.
weeks, and we will have different guests here. I'd love to have people email me or text me or write on our Facebook some topics you'd be interested in hearing about. Again, we're with Comprehensive Wellness Centers. I'm the CEO. This is Gary Kay, the Director of Recovery Education. We'll be here every week at Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Also,
Thursday at 5 p.m. We'll always be here Thursday at 5 p.m. And what were you going to say?
several people have asked about step 12. I'm an author. I write for Hazelden Publishing, and Hazelden is the largest publisher of recovery literature on the planet. It's Hazelden Betty Ford Publishing. And you can go on Amazon or Google or Target Books has it, and Hazelden has it. My most recent book is called Walk the Talk with Step 12, Staying Sober Through Service. And it explains the history of Step 12 and why Step 12 is essential to sustaining recovery. And go on and grab a copy, and I'd love to hear from you. What
And
you
you
think
will
about the
bring a
book.
copy of it next week to show.
I will, absolutely I will.
All right.
Thank
you, everybody, and see you next week.
Thank you.